Hey, morning, everybody. Thought it'd be fun. I haven't been on live here for a while, probably a few months, as we've been traveling and I've been kind of working really hard in the studio. Thought it'd be fun to show you guys yesterday's painting session with me talking about the process of working in the shadow area of a painting that I usually just have blocked in for the beginning. I'll usually sketch in some of in this case, it's the eyes. I'll sketch it in with a little bit of charcoal lightly and then use that as a basis to paint with the oils. So I thought I'd go through, I have about an hour of footage of yesterday's session that I'd love to go through with you guys and take questions and whatever you guys want. And if you have questions in the comments, feel free to ask them. I'm going to try to get to them as much as I can. I feel like my channel is really small right now, which is great, so I can actually get around to answering most of the comments that I see. And yeah, so let's get going with the painting process here. Let me bring up and if you guys have any questions, again, I'm going to have the window open here. Make this kind of interactive because there's a lot of questions I will probably field from you guys that I wouldn't have been talking about. So if you guys see, this is an oil painting of my friend Mark Majori. And I've been working on this painting. We went to Europe for about 3 weeks where my wife and I were teaching in Urbino, Italy. And hey, what's up, BA? How's it going? Uh, while we were there, before I left, I'm in a Western art show, which is different for me. And I've been working on these portraits of some friends of mine and cowboys that I'd met when I was actually Mark Majori set up a photo shoot to meet some ranch hands and folks in Arizona. And so I got to meet with them and take photos for a small series of 5 paintings, I think, maybe 7. We'll see how it goes. Everything's due in about a month. So I thought it would be also fun to kind of paint Mark because he's got a really interesting look. And so I blocked it all in, and I think I have a video on the block in process with these transparent washes over top of white, where I kind of just keep things very broad and loose. And this is kind of the next stage, how I go into the light areas and redraw things and find a little bit more specific qualities of the features and everything. And so I'm really playing with this optical red right here along the shadow shape to kind of redraw the edges of the shadow. And what optical red does is it gives us this nice halftone between the light and the dark. And so I'm laying that out to begin with, as well as kind of redrawing in areas, the wing of the nostril, anything that's in the shadow, I'm kind of redrawing. Let me see if I can bring up a picture in picture here. I'm like describing things with my hands, unfortunately. I guess I'm 25% Italian. Let's see, show picture in picture. Hey, there you go. And I don't have my real camera set up at all. I just have the laptop camera. Great. So come in here, the brush I'm using here is, I think it's a Da Vinci brush. It's very similar to the Isabey Kolinsky sable that I use, which is a watercolor brush, a watercolor round. Most of them are similar. Treckle makes one, I think a protege brush. They call it, it's basically a synthetic round watercolor brush that I use for oil painting. And it helps it as a drawing tool to be able to get around the drawing, around the painting, so I can draw. I'm having my coffee now. It's 9 a.m. out here. Thanks, Kim. And so coming in and kind of reshaping out the lips. Again, sorry my hand is in the way a little bit. Hey, Eric, how's it going? Yeah, Mark's paintings are incredible. Definitely check out his work. He's definitely probably one of the most dynamic Western painters out there today, I would say. He's doing amazing stuff. And he's great. He's kind of helping to build the community. What he did was he basically set up a photo shoot. And I'm not going to get out into the middle of nowhere by mountains and see people on horseback too often out here in Albuquerque, and where I used to live in Brooklyn. So he kind of set up a photo shoot for a couple artists, my friend SM Chavez, Sean, and Jeremy Lipking, who's a good friend of mine, who's also an amazing painter. Definitely check out Jeremy's stuff. Everyone already knows Jeremy, though. And Kim Wiggins was also out there, another painter. He's a little bit more expressive of an artist. I think that's it. Anyway, it was a huge production. We had costumes and costume designers. Mark just knows what he's doing. And so I started actually 2 paintings of horseback riders. If you're on the Patreon page, you guys have seen those in progress. I post a lot to the Patreon page. Basically, everything I'm working on in the studio is basically on there as I'm working on it. Plus, stuff that I see when we were traveling. So I have photos from some of the Bouguereau paintings I saw at the Musée d'Orsay. So it's become kind of this repository of what I'm doing in the studio, as well as the videos here. So coming into the shapes right here, I want the shadows to be pretty warm because the sunlight is actually pretty cool. So we want to kind of flip that idea of if you have warm highlights, you want cool shadows, and vice versa. Hey Joy, how's it going? Oh, it is interesting to see my hand color versus the painting skin tone. And this is all just very cursory in the very beginning. Just kind of like guesstimates. You can see like the gray on his cheek is going to change. I'm actually painting today. I've already started this morning, and I didn't include that in this, but it's even more subtle. That's one thing we want to think about within the shadows, is that our shadows are less chromatic than our lights, right? So there's less purity to the color. And the edges within our shadows are also softer, so that none of those hard edges stand out and kind of call the attention of the viewer outside of the areas within the light. We want our light to come forward more than our shadows. So we want any hard edges within our painting to be in our lights. Same with texture. So I'm painting very thinly right now, and I'm also redrawing. So that's why I'm using this brush that's kind of smaller, is I'm coming in redrawing areas. And there's like big chunks of dark and light in quotes, within the shadow areas as well. Yeah, BA. The painters were pretty incredible. It's for a show that's coming up in Austin in September, and everything is due, I think, in July, so that they can photograph things. They want to make prints, I believe, and just have. I'm having my paintings framed right now. I'm working with this guy Troy Stafford on some frames that are like unique for the paintings, which are pretty incredible. And I'm hoping to finish 5 of these portraits. They're only 16 by 12 inches, as well as I'm doing a tondo of like a landscape with a woman on a horse, a cowgirl on a horse, and then another one of a guy in silhouette at dusk. What is killing? ? I don't know what that means. Yeah, Mark is incredible. He's got a lot of talent. I guess Eric's saying, man, a lot of talent in one piece. So coming in, right now the medium that I'm using is a Galkid gel medium. It's really interesting, actually. Do you guys know this? The mediums for Winsor Newton Liquin Original, the color of the actual medium has changed. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. When I used to get it, it used to be slightly um, like warmer, almost. I'm trying to think of the color. It's like almost a darker version. What would you say the color is of Liquid originally? Now it's a lot lighter and more yellow, almost transparent with a little bit of a yellow tinge. And it used to be more pink, I guess. And it looks like it's more archival to me, the new stuff, the new Liquid. And I use Liquid to oil out when I'm done painting. Hey Jeff, how's it going? Oh, Jeff's at The Hague. That's amazing. The Hague is great. It's a great town. Is that where Girl with the Pearl Earring is in The Hague, I believe, right? The Meritus House in The Hague? I've actually never been to The Hague. I've been to Holland a lot, Amsterdam, and areas like that, Rotterdam, Utrecht. Utrecht during the winter time. It was snowing. It just was so beautiful. Thanks for joining on, Jeff. Again, reshaping and redrawing what's going on with the eyes here. Now, I want to go a little darker when it comes up against that optical red that we were talking about before, and really chunk out the top part of the bridge of his nose is really in shadow. And so my brush also follows that form. I'm moving a little bit of ultramarine blue into my red mix. And so the red that's on my palette right here that's a permanent bright red from Vasari. You can see it on my mixing area. And then the blue at the very bottom is the ultramarine blue. And usually I have them at the top part of my palette, but I think I was doing some color studies for YouTube and had some extra left over and put them over there as that comes over. Oh, hey Jay, how's it going? Yeah, the whole Paul Talk thing was ridiculous because it wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it at all. It was very frustrating because something like I'm not responding at all, and whatever. We'll just leave it at that. Hey Frank, how's it going? Can you address the red you use to block in the edge of the shadow of the face? Yeah, so I talked about that a little earlier, Frank. That's great. It's my version of an optical red, which is you'll see in Bouguereau's paintings when he has like the edge of a finger or toes. You'll see that he brings in this red on that edge, which acts as almost like a half tone into the light. But you still want it to come forward. So it's an interesting, within this case, so the shadow is something that I want to delve into the painting, into the depth of the painting. But because this is a cast shadow, I don't want to lose the distance. I don't want to like cut a hard edge up against the light of his face. And so what this red does, it kind of brings the shadow slightly forward because you have a half tone, a warm, which is coming forward, half tone, right along that edge. And that keeps it from just being a hard cut shadow edge. It's kind of a step into the shadow from the light. Because the side of his face is actually probably close to the lightest light within the painting. We don't want to just cut it at that edge. So I hope that makes sense. And you see a lot of painters from the past have used it before. You see it sometimes in Rembrandt. In my mind, we were just in France at the Musée d'Orsay, and you could see it in some of the Bouguereau paintings. So that's just why it's sticking out in my head is these Bouguereaus. And I just posted a whole bunch. I was just saying earlier, I posted a bunch of those photos over on the Patreon page for everyone to check out. I might do a study of one of the hands or the feet that I saw. It was amazing how good the actual iPhone can get. And my wife is a lot taller than me, not much taller, like maybe an inch or two, but she's got long arms. She'll tell you this right up front that she has long, she played basketball. So I think she said her wingspan is larger than her height. And so she's great at getting good photos of paintings when they're hung pretty high. So I always like have her hold take the photos on the painting that are hard to get to. It's pretty fun. uh, Jeff, yeah, you track. I want to get back to well, we want to go to Amsterdam really bad, and we want to go to we want to travel around Holland. We were in the south of France, and we want to get back there as well. We were in Aix-en-Provence and Gourd, and we want to like travel to Lacoste and do some landscape painting, which will be a lot of fun. Yeah, so Jay, yeah, they use red as a transition. It's pretty awesome. So you can see where I'm blocking in that shadow shape under the eye. So right now, even I'm just trying to block in still simplified shapes within the areas that I'm seeing. Great questions, guys. Thanks for watching and being engaged. This is rad. I'm gonna just check the on YouTube. I haven't been online in a while. I'm trying to think what's going on with anything new or updates. We are next couple classes I'm teaching are teaching in San Antonio, teaching a 3-day painting class from life, from the model. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then I'm also we're teaching outside of Atlanta. We're teaching a drawing class, drawing from life, from the model. That'll be a lot of fun. And all these things are on my website. I think there should be a link or something in below in the comment section about where I'm teaching in person. It's good to actually get some in-person teaching again. I kind of miss it a little bit. We were just in Italy teaching, and we all stayed in this like hilltop, quote unquote, village. There was maybe 5 or 6 buildings on this hilltop, and it was actually cool. It was a place where Dante had been exiled to out of Tuscany, and so it kind of had this really cool history to it, and I swear the place was haunted. We would hear random bangs and weird stuff, but it was kind of built on this not a cliff, but this like hilltop that you could overlook, where we had breakfast every morning outside on this terrace. You could overlook and see other towns within the distance, like 5 kilometers that way or 7 kilometers the other way. It was really neat. And I think I gained probably 15 pounds. The guy who set up the workshop was a wine som and a foodie, and we ate so much food. It was so incredible. Oh, Jeff, that'd be incredible. Thanks, man. I'll definitely hit you up if we end up in Amsterdam or Holland in general. Yeah, Shayna and I've been to Holland, but she hasn't. I don't know if she's been. I don't know. It's pretty incredible. Hopefully there's not too much traffic right now with the NATO summit that's going on right now and all the craziness in NATO in The Hague. So coming in, the brush I'm using right here is just a soft brush. This is a pretty affordable brush from Amazon. And it gives me some give. And so again, I'm using it just to block in those large shadow shapes of warm. And I'm using a little bit of the which I don't usually use, is alizarin crimson, is kind of making its way back into my palette. After doing some of these tests, someone had asked actually on another video about the light fastness of it. And the light fastness was a 2. I'm not sure what the scale is for light fastness, but I think that usually they say if something has a good light fastness, it's a 1. I'm guessing a 2 isn't that far off. I'm not sure if the scale goes up to 5, unless it is 1 and 2, and then it's the worst. I hope that's not the case. But I'm using it as a kind of a glazy medium paint within the shadows here. Just coming in and blocking in. Now I really want to get the character of Mark really well here. So the eyes are going to be really important to kind of keep them subdued, but still noticeable enough. And there's this beautiful, like, quote unquote, half tone within the shadows that I'm kind of shaping out now. I don't love the blue that I put there, but I like this idea of blocking in a cool color and then working a warm over top of it. Just so when you have a warm and cool next to each other, they tend to vibrate, and it kind of makes the painting somewhat more luminous, in my opinion. You see that again with Rembrandt, Scumbling, where he'll have kind of his green underpainting within certain areas of a painting that he'll scumble over top of that with a warm pink. And just that pink having separate areas that are green coming through, especially when there's a painting in the Met, man, I think it's just Portrait of a Man in an Oval. It's an oval shaped painting, and it's just mind-blowing painting. I have a reproduction of it on my wall in the studio for inspiration, but it's one of the most living, like, breathing paintings I've ever seen. And he does that. He has that vibration of warm and cool, pink and green. Oh, no problem, Frank. Oh, it's interesting. Wayne Thiebaud uses it too. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, I definitely can see that now. I feel like some of his might have been underpainting coming through the drawing, maybe. I'll have to look. Oh, he refers to them as halftones. Perfect. Yeah. Same. It's just there's like different ways, and I've talked about this in other videos about softening an edge, right? So an edge, we have an airplane flying above. Hopefully you guys can hear me through the mic better. When you have, you can either have a wet on wet edge, or you can soften it gently with a dry brush, a brush that doesn't have any paint on it, to kind of soften it gently. You can cross contour and knit across an edge with paint, or you can find that exact halftone between the light and the dark as a value shift into it. So those are the three ways that I soften edges. And I have a video that I talk about that a little bit more on here. I'm trying to make videos for everything. And lately all the color videos have been a lot of fun. If you guys can think of any other color videos, I'd love to hear. I'm actually going to be doing one. I'm going to try to partner with a company. I'm going to have them send me their, let's see if you guys can guess this, vermilion, ivory black, flake white, and yellow ochre colors to do a certain artist's palette. And I want to use those colors to see how skin tones are made. I don't usually work with a limited palette because I love the idea of understanding the value of certain colors, not just in like intrinsic value, but the on a scale from light to dark value of certain colors. Oh, Frank's saying, oh, they bring so much energy to the images. Is that the Swedish artist? He might be Swedish. And actually, it's really funny. I've been looking a lot. I've been doing some drawing studies. Like I did a drawing study of Mark before I did the painting. And I've been using this artist's certain etching kind of quality that he has when he etches, because his etchings are beautiful also. I'm gonna figure out if they're dry point. I think they're dry point etchings too, not just intaglio. There's a big difference between intaglio and dry point. I used to do printmaking in college. So getting some of this edge here. Again, I love this brush. It's a very soft brush. The name of it, all my brushes my easel is over there. Let me go and grab that really quick. 1 second. Okay, so the brush that I'm using currently in this, it's a 0, which is actually pretty large. I'm just using my webcam here. And it's a Degato artist brush, size 0. My wife buys these on Amazon. And I think they're really affordable. I want to say like 10, 15, 20 bucks at the most for like maybe 7 or 8 brushes. And then this is my mainstay. I think you can only buy these in Europe now. And this is a size 2 Isabey 6227Z Kolinsky sable made in France. I saw these at the Sennelier store in Paris. It sounds so fancy. I don't get to Paris very often. And we were there for like a day and a half. And I think it was like 30 euros for this brush. And a friend of mine finds them I think in Italy for a lot cheaper, and has bought me some. And actually someone on YouTube here was insanely generous, and he had a few of these brushes lying around in his house, and he said he wasn't going to use them, and he mailed them to me, which is incredible. I won't mention his name here. I don't want to like call anybody out, but thank you so much. I mean, this is probably one of those brushes. I actually had partnered with Isabey maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and they actually made a brush for me, but they sold out of them. I think they only made like 300 of them. They're they wanted to put my name on it, and I thought that was weird. So I just put at the end of the 6227Z, I put an LK at the end to represent my son, Lucas Casson. I put his initials on there. So it was the LK brush. And it just was a brush. So as you guys know, watercolor brushes have smaller handles than oil painting brushes. This is oil painting. So I put a large handle on the back of this watercolor brush, so it had a little bit more distance and subtlety that we could get. Still, these are pretty good though. I balanced out. He sent me all these different handles to look at and sizes and everything. So it was a lot of fun to do like a signature brush. And the other brush I'm using here is a Treckle Protégé 6500 round, which is just like this guy right here. I always lick the brush because I think my saliva is going to keep them together, hopefully. These are synthetic. So my wife has this technique that she uses where she takes boiling water and dips the brush in the boiling water a certain way. And all the synthetic bristles that kind of go all crazy after you use them, after a while, they kind of sink together. And then she puts like a gum Arabic kind of brush restorer type of thing, I think also from Treckle, on there, which works pretty well. Also, I'm sorry I missed some questions. Zorn. It was definitely Zorn. The Zorn palette. Yeah, Eric, I don't know if I stink at the palette. Eric says he still stinks at using the palette. Probably not. But I'm going to give it a shot and just kind of, I've been doing a little bit of research into color charts with the Zorn palette. I find it really interesting. But I also thinking about how I'm going to get skin tones. And so I want the video to be, here's all the palette with white, and here's how they look when they mix them together. And then here's kind of a basics like skin tones that you can get. Skin tones are so hard to like cover on YouTube, I've discovered, because so many people have different flesh tones, different ethnicities. And it's like, what is the correct skin tone? Like it's such a situational thing based on what you're seeing at the moment. It's hard to do formulas for mixing a skin tone, so I don't know it, and I don't want to be clickbaity or cheesy. I think I already do that enough here on YouTube just to get any video seen at all. You need like a clever title, but to be like, this is the only way to make a skin tone with this 4 colors, or the basic skin tone, like formulas might be okay. I don't know. The things I'm trying to figure out with being a content producer, right? Content creator now. Joy says, oh, thanks, Joy. The color mixing videos. They've kind of been up and down. I feel like some have been popular, some haven't been. I've kind of just been going through my palette, and what's kind of neat about them is kind of what I'm learning by doing them. like again using alizarin crimson in my palette now, in my basic palette. So I also wanted that to be for workshops, and again for everybody on the Patreon page. I'm actually working on a PDF of all of the color charts, and so I've gone through and I've screenshot at high res all of the screenshots, and I'm putting together a PDF. So it's kind of a reference of, I see this color in a sky, but which blue should I go for? Should I go for a video blue, or should I go for a cobalt blue with white? And so they're kind of like helpful color charts to help move in different directions that you're seeing things, and just mostly again for myself, because I'm working on some big landscape paintings that I want to be able to know what I mixed and what the difference is between cobalt blue and ultramarine blue. There's very subtle differences. And by doing it, mixing them with the white, you really can see the personality and the temperature of them. And that's, so I'm glad that you're enjoying them too. Long story short, I like to ramble. So coming in here and kind of shaping out a little bit of the wing of the nostril. And there's this dark patch where his, the nasal labial fold meets the top of the nostril. And you see a little bit of the fold, but then it kind of dissipates as it hits into the shadow. It's really beautiful. Thibaut has said that the inspiration for this was the stage and theater sets he did early in his career, and that it was a result of the RGB lights breaking at the edges of elements on the stage. Oh, that's cool. Thanks, Frank. I didn't know that. That makes sense. I don't know if you guys can hear, I have a fly in the studio because I've been keeping the door open. Awesome, guys. Thanks again for all the comments and everything and being engaged. Coming in here, pulling the shadow underneath the wing of the nostril. Again, also using kind of hatching into the mustache with that subtle. Again, the Kolinsky sable brushes are just really getting me a really beautiful fine point that I can knit my colors together. And if I mix into my puddles here, as I'm doing on the mixing thing, I want to go a little lighter and put a little bit of medium in there just to kind of get it to flow just right. Again, painting skin tones, it's very situational. It depends on kind of if I see an edge that needs to be darker or lighter. Like in here, I definitely want to go darker within this edge, but as it turns, pulling in some of the Capucine red light, but softening it out, and then thinking about the turn of the nose into the shadow along that left-hand side. And so I tend to kind of use these, if you look at my puddles on my palette, almost like these family of puddles. When I call it family, it's like at the first point was a little bit of green, a little bit of red, a little bit of radiant red in an area, and then I kind of move in and out of those groupings of paint into areas that might be a little warmer, might be a little colder. And so it helps to kind of keep a unity to my paint mixture as I'm going, so that nothing's completely wild and out of place. And so we've been demoing now for 32 minutes. Let's see if we can go for an hour. Is that cool, guys? See if anyone will show up and watch. So again, softening up, reshaping as I'm always redrawing. And when I say redrawing within color, it's interesting because I think of color like passages of value and color that are kind of reshaping an area, especially on that part of the wing of the nostril. Do I use a studio journal? That's a good question. Man, I used to journal all the time on the subway in New York on my way to classes. I do have this notebook that I keep track of everything in, like just kind of what I'm working on. Even ideas for videos and things I have to write a script for YouTube. things I need to work on for bios, for projects. I guess it's kind of like a journal. This is kind of like what I need to finish for my show, for the painting show. And just kind of keep track of stuff like that. Before I left for our month-long France trip, it was literally, this is what I want to do videos on. Like which videos, chromatic lights, Bellas Artes paints, umami colors, which are pretty awesome, umbers. And I still have 2 color videos I'm working on right now that I haven't released. Visari Paint is pretty awesome, and they sent Shayna and I 5 different blacks that they have that are kind of unique black paints. I think one's called like night black, one's called, I forget what they are, like amethyst black or something like that. And so I did a video on all the different blacks that they have, like their unique blacks. And then I also just did a video on vermilion as well. While I was doing my own reds, I filmed about, I had 3 paints in my drawer that were vermilion. And so I was like, what's the difference between these vermilion paints? And so that's another video. I feel like the videos aren't getting a lot of traction. Unfortunately, the algorithm drives kind of what I want to produce, I guess. And they did early on. I think I've kind of oversaturated, pun intended, the market on the color videos for now. And I'm going to probably just release a lot of the color videos earlier on the Patreon page. There seems to be more interest there than on the YouTube channel. But then I'll probably put them on the YouTube channel eventually as well. If you guys can think of any videos you want to see, I'd love to hear in the comments. I'm always looking for different ideas. And lately it's just been kind of what I'm working on in the studio. Like this painting of Mark is a painting that I've been working on. So I thought it'd be cool to share the painting process with you guys. So there's this shadow underneath the eye that comes up and over. Again, I'm using that soft brush. It's kind of almost, it's not sable soft, but it's not bristle stiff. So it's kind of right in the middle. I would say almost like a mongoose brush. This Dugato, it's definitely synthetic, and it's good. It just gives me a little bit of give on the hairs, so that I can kind of come in and just soften areas as I'm putting paint on, and so I can soften out that shadow. And I'm using a little bit of the alizarin crimson. Alizarin crimson gets things to be pretty dark pretty fast, with the added with adding the ultramarine blue as well. It gives you a really beautiful dark that has some interest rather than just using a black. You can see right there where I'm mixing through. It has this nice cool pink vibe to it when you add other colors to it. And so basically my thought process when I'm thinking about color is it warm or is it cool? Well, first, like, do I see like a red? What is the name of the hue, right? The name of the color. Oh, I see some red through here. Is the red warm or cool? And then I go towards either a warm red or a cool red. And further explanation of that, there's a video that I did where I covered all the reds and I talk about which ones are warm and which ones are cool. It's basically just basic color theory on the color wheel, where a pink moves more towards a blue, and say a cadmium red light or permanent bright red moves more towards a yellow, orange, and how that works, where that's a lot warmer than the other colors. And it's really interesting even to see where cool reds recede and warm reds advance. And so to think about even the subtlety of how form is created through temperature is something that's very amazing to think about within painting. There's so many different layers to the idea of even the depth within the shadows here, right? Where I want the blue to really be deeper in the shadows. So I'm using ultramarine blue in these parts of the eyes right now because I want this part to be sunken into the painting, deeper into the shadows and the depth of the painting. But then I want areas also to still kind of sit on a level with the skin tone that's in the light, because this is just a cast shadow. It's really interesting. I would love to paint with oil, but I think it's so expensive. That's a really interesting comment, only because I feel like oil gets a bad rap and is kind of misunderstood. This actually might be an idea for a video. Is oil paint really? If you think of the scheme of things, I've had oil paints, and I think the probably one of the most expensive brands, for the most part, Visari, and still the paint is really. I have paints that I've had for 15, 20 years, it's it's not, I feel like that's not the expensive part. Even the brushes, these brushes, like $20, you can get like 7 or 8 brushes. I think I want to put together a set or something that's like a beginner set. Like what can I do with $100 in an art store to get going on an oil painting? Because I want to prove to Kim now that I don't think it's that expensive. But I get it. People are in different circumstances, different funds. People have different ways of surviving income-wise, and so it might be expensive. But I think that I think if you just get small pieces over time. I remember I couldn't afford, when I lived in New York and I was taking classes, I was living on unemployment insurance for a while because I got laid off of my job because they lost funding after 9/11. The whole company went from 60 people down to 6. And so all my friends and I, we had a whole tech team, and I was the creative director on the .com. We all lost our jobs. And so I decided to go back to school at the Art Students League. And I didn't have very much money at all. My wife at the time was a ticket taker at the Guggenheim Museum in New York, didn't pay a ton. And I remember saving up Visari, the best paint you can buy, in my opinion, or one of the best brands. I feel like they're amazing. Michael Harding is amazing. There's so many great paints nowadays. Rembrandt. Anyway, I saved up. They would have a sale every couple months for the browns would be on sale. The brown earths, the reds would be on sale for next month. I would save up and buy just those colors. And so over time, I was able to get a full palette, And in the meantime, I was using cheaper paints to kind of fill in the spots. But definitely, I think that a budget for the poor artist starting in oil painting, I don't think it's that hard to start. I bet $100 is a lot, actually, to a lot of folks. But I think we could probably do it. That's a cool idea to help people. I want to usher people into getting into oil paint, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think the more oil painters out there, the happier, the greater community will be. Raynola, oh, very cool. Thanks for stopping in, being able to catch a live session. Daryl, as a South African, where anything but air is taxed through the roof, and a dollar versus the rand. I know I've been to South Africa, and I know the value of the rand. One consolation for you guys is that you have the best food in the world. When I was in South Africa, everything was so amazing. Jeez. Randall says, I've been watching your vids since you were painting in the subways. Yeah. I painted a friend of mine, Chris. Well, I did a drawing of him in the subways way back. Geez, 15 years ago. Oh, thanks, Randall. I appreciate that. Daryl, yeah, this stuff is so expensive. I totally hear you. Can I star that comment? I just starred it. I'm just learning now how to use the interface here. Oh, and I totally missed out on Lori. Hey Lori, how's it going? One of my favorite painters and people and DJs. How's it going? Also, I think there's a little bit of a delay on here. I should be talking about the painting. Um, Really kind of shaping up the shadow shape on the cheek though, right? So you can see that the value of that light as it turns into the depth of the painting. His cheeks are going to have a little bit more volume as they turn. I'm going to try to film maybe a little bit more today. The part I'm at right now in the painting, it's getting close to being finished. And so it's like kind of boring. It just looks like I'm like doing very subtle micro tonal shifts of things. And so it's not as exciting as I think kind of the transition of what we have here, where we had nothing. I'm going to go to where we first started. The coolest thing about having the video already high res filmed, I edited it this morning, the hour footage, and color corrected it and everything, and did the side by side with the palette, is we can rewind. How cool is this? Ready? This is what we started with, right? So that was my block in, and then this is where we were at, right here. Well, 15 minutes in, right here. So going into the light, and I'm using texture now into the lights, and I still went into the shadows even more because you can see underneath that right eye, his left eye, this eye, it's funny, I'm pointing at the screen, but you can't see it. You can see where it gets a little too light, and I'm going to kind of glaze all of this together as well. Coming into the lower lip, kind of thinking of the shape of it, the warmth of the color. We got to figure out a way to get cheap art supplies to South Africa. My wife and I are actually teaching in South Africa. I think next year we're teaching in South Africa, Daryl, so I'll keep you posted. I'm not sure. I think the class is open for mostly locals, actually. And I think it's going to be near Stellenbosch. That's where we taught last time, with Stellenbosch. Beautiful, beautiful part of the world. Coming into this upper lip, using that same sable brush to get some of the subtlety. It's really interesting. My block-ins, I'm literally scrubbing in with a bristle brush. And then I start moving into smaller brushes when I start to think about the drawing a little bit more sophisticatedly, and the subtlety of, I love knitting colors together and shapes together. And so I feel that even getting like warms next to those cools, like we were talking about before, having things to be able to knit from one to the others is something that I find extremely satisfying within painting. And I really find when we were traveling, I was able to see a lot of painters that did that, like Ribera. You can really see how he hatched areas into one another. It was pretty incredible. And I took some other photos too. I don't remember the artist. I'm going to be posting those on the Patreon page. I got to do a plug for the Patreon page because it's what supports the channel. I don't have any sponsors or anything. A lot of the paint I've been given to me as an artist. Here's the thing that's kind of also messed up, is I can afford paint now, and now paint companies tend to give me paint. Where when I was an art student, I could use the paint, but I couldn't afford it. So there's like these weird things that kind of have frustrated me in my career, and I totally feel for everybody out there. But this page is sponsored by my Patreon page. So for $5 a month, I think it's like $60 a year, You get access to all the content. It's all organized in different areas. I have all the color studies organized. There's everything I hand out for my workshops and other things that are behind the scenes, basically shots of everything I'm working on in the space right now over the last year is all there, as well as drawing classes that are my workshops. I've been posting the workshops, full 6-hour workshops over there that I taught during COVID in high res. And there's just a lot of content. And you get full access for $5 a month. You can give more as well to help support the channel, but it's a cool little community we have over there. That's it. There's the end of the plug. Reshaping out the nose here. Daryl goes, anyone heads to Cape Town? I'm in Johannesburg, unfortunately. Oh, everyone does go to Cape Town. Most art things are on the Cape. It's pretty much different country. That side people are the same, but everything else. I'm sorry, man. We did fly. I remember I flew into Johannesburg, and then we flew down to Cape Town. And then we drove over to Stellenbosch. Randall says, do you have your own line of rosemary brushes? I don't have a line of brushes. They have a set that I put together with them, but I'm not sure if it's shipping. There was some embargo or ban on, I don't even know what embargo means. So there was a ban, I think, on Kolinsky sables, and I had some Kolinsky sables in my kit. And so I don't know if they're selling them right now. My contact with them, she started a coaching company, art coaching company. And so I don't know what the status is, but we were thinking about doing the brush that I made with Isabey through Rosemary. But again, haven't followed through as much. It's funny, I get wrapped up into painting too much. And lately with the YouTube, it's been 6 months I've been doing YouTube, which is kind of neat. I got monetized in December. And so I guess that also kind of helps fund the channel. The $400 I make, oops, did I say that? From YouTube. It's fun. I told myself I'd do it for a year and just see how much content I can put out there. Jed, just catching up on the stream. I thought I was the only one who thought finishing a piece was the boring part. My wife gives me shit all the time about it. I don't think finishing it's boring. I don't know. I think the beginnings are really fun though. And then I slow down a lot because I have to consider everything. And so pieces that I wanted to be a little looser tend to get the same level of finish that everything else does, because it doesn't really matter in the size of the piece. But they're kind of fun. I think this will be a good piece, and I'm hoping to finish it in the next day or so. And then I'm working on another portrait of Ben, who's a cowboy. Ben Austin and Dally Boy is the guy's name. Dally Boy? Yeah. Daryl asks, I have friends in Stellenbosch. Maybe he'll come through and bring a local wine, considering he'll be in wine country. Definitely. So the brush I'm using right here is a very stiff brush, and I'm putting in a little bit of texture you can't really see. And I'm bringing in some of the yellow ochre and Naples yellow with that little thing at the bottom where I just dipped into is like a oleopasto, liquid oleopasto, and it's a very textured paint kind of goo that I love for getting impasto. It's oleopasto, not liquid impasto. Liquid impasto doesn't really have the quality of the oleopasto. There's a big difference. I love how there are two of you on the screen at the same time. It's like you're being in the multiverse. That's pretty funny. Yeah, my I guess I am wearing the same hat and glasses as I was yesterday. I think a different shirt though. I was looking at my shirt on the video and I was like, I think it's inside out. And I looked, I'm like, oh no, it's not. It's just made to look like that. I literally get dressed. I think I got up this morning at like 5 a.m. in the dark and just grabbed any shirt. And that's what you should do if you're going to go be on YouTube live with all your friends. You know, just dress in the dark. You know, I'm not wearing pants. That's what's the funny part. I'm totally wearing pants. Again, all the dad jokes all the time. So coming in and reshaping out some of the shadow a little bit here. And we're getting close to the finish here. I've been on for about 55 minutes. You guys want to get any more questions in? I'm going to hang out for another 2 minutes on here. And I'm going to post the progress of this on the Patreon page. Again, I want to give a shout out to those that are supporting the channel on there. It's incredible, the support that we have in the community that we're building over there, and I'm very appreciative. Randall says, I'll check them out. My wife tells me I can't have any more expensive brushes until I learn how to wash my cheap ones. That's the one thing, is when a brush fell off my table and I don't see it until the next day and I didn't get it washed. It's sad. These are our tools for making things. We got to keep them fresh. Awesome. So kind of reshaping this upper lid. And from here, I'm gonna kind of start glazing in other areas as well. And again, keeping those edges softer. Remember, softer edges in the shadows. And also less chrome. Oh, my puppy dog. She's usually in here with me while I'm working. Softer edges in the shadows and less chroma. When using photo reference, do I adjust them before use? I do. I try to get the color that I would see from painting from life. That was one big kind of career move, I think, was when my son was born in 2006, and I went from studying full-time only from the model in life for I don't even know how long, 5 years I was working from life every day. So I'm going to rewind it a little bit so you guys can see where it started. Where I was just blocking things in with charcoal where the eyes are going to be, and then to where we are here, where we're starting to get a little bit of the character of the sitter, of the model. I'll show you guys this again real quick as I just kind of finish up this last question about the photos. So I learned that like I couldn't have a model every day. I was a stay-at-home dad. I stayed home and watched my son when he was a baby, and I would bring him into the studio with me, and he would be in his bouncy seat, and I'd be painting while watching him. Or when we'd watch kid shows together. I'd be painting in the same living room, trying to do whatever I could. And I couldn't have models, so I was like, well, I need to figure out a way to work from photos. And I was adamant while I was in school about not using photos. And I see a lot of people that are like that today. And I get it. Some people can afford to only work from models, but I think it can be limiting. I think working only from photos is also limiting. So I think that you want a balance of both. I think that the working only from life for me really has informed my working from photos. And then working from photos, I know what makes a good photo to work from and a bad photo to work from for the most part. And so I know that the photo reference that I take is going to be suitable for how I want to paint it. And I'm not using the photo verbatim. In fact, I hate showing the photo reference next to what I'm painting because people inherently want to compare the two, and I'm making decisions that are different than what the photo is telling me to do. remember this one painting I saw that a guy did where the model was cross-eyed in the painting, and it was clearly painted from a photo. And I was like, oh, he's painting this woman who has, that's the interesting part about the painting, was she's cross-eyed. And the woman wasn't cross-eyed. It's just that she was, the lens of the camera was so close to the model when he took the photo to paint from. He just copied the photo exactly. And I remember being like, well, how could you do that? You're making decisions off of a reference. It's not something that's verbatim. So using a photo as just reference versus you kind of want to enforce your knowledge on top of the photo rather than a photo enforcing its will on you for the most part. So that's a great question, Doug. Thank you so much. I will post this live, and I'll see you guys. Maybe I'll do another one of these later this week, or do some drawing. I haven't done some drawing in a while. I noticed that those weren't super popular on here when I would draw. I use the iPad so you don't see my hand in it. But yeah, maybe I'll do some more painting videos. Hey, thanks guys for having a look in the studio. If I got to say the obligatory, if you like this content, please like and subscribe and share. It helps to kind of get this content out to the algorithm. And I appreciate all the support. I so appreciate the support of the folks on Patreon. And if you want to join Patreon, there'll be a link in the comments or in the description below. And awesome. I'll see you at the next one. Take care and paint well, everybody.